So I'll call the quorum is here. The meeting was properly posted, and Kristen's done a visual roll call. Okay, thank you. Public appearances, I see none, so we'll move forward on that. Old business, the church. Discuss meter at the church on North Main Street. And Brian, you got a really short one on that?
Yeah, we've had some unforeseen vacancies. One of them being Matt Bulwig, our utility technician, left for another community. So he was kind of heading up that project. It's left us a little short-staffed here, so we just put it on the back burner for now. We're still working towards it, to getting a resolution there, but we're on hold for now.
And then new business number 5. JJ, what do you want? How you want to do this? Want to just go down the line, or you want to go right to the rate increase?
I'd say since I see Christy and Eric, if they're ready, we can go jump right into B and C.
Yes, we're ready. Can I share my screen, or?
Oh, I hope so. You should be able to.
Okay. Yeah, we just have a real brief presentation hitting on some of the high points here. And then we're just kind of here to answer any questions you might have. So is that PowerPoint showing up on your end?
Not yet.
Okay. Try that again. Okay. Oh, there we go. I think I know what I did last time. Okay, now it should be showing up.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. Now we'll go like that. Okay, so I'm Christy DeMaster, and we also have Eric Random on the call with us in case you have some detailed questions about anything here, but I just want to hit some of the highlights real quick. So we are recommending an estimated 40% overall rate increase. And I say estimated because this all has to be submitted to the PSC, and they will certainly make some adjustments, as they always do. This is basically based on just plugging in your O&M expenses, your projected sales, your taxes, your depreciation expense, and the PSC's benchmark rate of return on your utility assets is what yields this 40% recommendation. And we took a look at this in terms of your cash flow needs for the utility also, and this is a good level for your utility with the capital projects you've got coming up. We are recommending that you do a simplified rate increase of 8%, which would begin in October of this year, and then take the other 32% of that with a conventional rate case, which our ballparking would probably go into effect in April of next year. Also, as part of this, you'd be changing in billing frequency from quarterly to monthly, which is something that was required because of your new automated metering system. And then looking at how your customers use water, we are also recommending a change to a conservation-based rate structure. So for your residential customers, there would be a little bit higher rate per unit as they go up in water use. So if you've got large customers using a lot of water in the summer, they'd pay a little bit more for that summer usage. And then we would look at a uniform rate for multifamily residential. And what that would do is would result in every multifamily building would pay the same rate for all of the water they use. So your larger buildings wouldn't get a break relative to smaller buildings with fewer units. And then we weren't proposing any changes to the non-residential rate structure. In terms of what this would mean for an average customer, so this would be a residential customer using 4,000 gallons of water per month. So right now, they're paying about $106.8 for a quarterly bill, or $35 a month. With that first step of the simplified rate increase, that would bump up about $3 per month. And then with that 8%, you wouldn't be going to the monthly billing yet. That would happen with the full rate case. So after that next step happens, then you'd be on the monthly billing, and that would be about $48.76 per month for that average customer. And again, if you switch to those conservation rates, then larger customers would see a little bit of a bigger impact. There's kind of some key drivers for this rate increase. One of those is that you really haven't been increasing rates much. You had one simplified 3% rate increase in 2017, or since 2017, sorry. I believe that was 2019. But other than that, everything stayed flat. So a lot of this is just keeping up with inflation. You've seen some increases in O&M expenses since your last rate case in 2017. And there, you're looking at a lot of capital improvements needed over the next few years, the big one being well number 2. And so at this level, after the second step of the rate increases, that would give you about $377,000 per year, roughly, to fund annual capital expenditures, including any debt service for those well 2 improvements. So that we think is an adequate number for the next several years. Just procedurally, for the simplified rate increase, it's a pretty simple, quick process. We would be looking to publish the customer notice on the 19th and then file that actual application 2 days later with PSC. They have to make a decision within 30 days, and then those will go into place, could go into place anytime 45 days after their decision. We picked October 1st so that it would coincide with the next quarterly billing period. So no change in rate structure with this, it would just be an across the board 8% simple rate increase. And then timing-wise on the next step, we'd like to, if we get approval, like to file this conventional rate case around the beginning of July. We would want to definitely get it in before August 1st, but we're targeting July 1st. PSC staff would look at it and see if it's complete, and then they'll take a more deeper dive into looking at all the assumptions we put in there for O&M expenses and customer sales and all that. Like I said, probably make some adjustments. That takes around 3 months, and then we would update everything with the proposed rates and refile that with PSC's numbers for how much you can collect. And then we're thinking probably February timeframe for their hearing, and then, like I said, probably get those implemented by about April next year. So it's generally about a 6-month review time for their process. So with that, I guess we'd be happy to take any questions anyone might have.
Oh, I got a bunch.
Okay.
So the 32%, is your recommendation, or is that the PSC's recommendation?
It's both. The PSC has a standard benchmark rate of return that they think is appropriate for utilities to collect. So that coincides with that 40%. And then taking a look, like I said, at your cash flow, especially with all the projects you have coming up and that well 2 project, we thought that was a good level of cash for your utility. PSC doesn't normally approve requests at lower than the benchmark rate of return unless you can provide a good case for why your utility doesn't need it.
Okay. And then what is the uniform rate for multifamily residents now? Do we have that?
Okay, so right now, Eric, maybe you can share, I don't know. We can just.
Well, let me answer that first part of it.
Yeah.
Currently, all customers pay the same, they're under the same rate structure, so there is no multifamily uniform rate at present. All the residential, multifamily, and non-residential customers all pay the same rates right now.
And that is what's known as a declining block rate. So as customers use more water, their rate per unit goes down after they pass certain steps. So
why would a multifamily unit that uses a lot of water pay less than a single family that uses a little bit more?
Right now they don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, just we're set, it's the same price for everybody for volume. And multifamily, ultimately they, depending on the size, I mean if it's a 4-plex with a 5/8 meter, but if it's like a big one over here, they've got a lot larger meter, larger service coming in, so they pay significantly more in the fixed charges. Those are based off of the size of the stuff that's
Okay.
installed. So doesn't matter if they have one drop of water, they're paying a bigger fixed charge because of the bigger.
So, and they'll be included in this 40% rate increase?
That's where I tried to answer, I think it was Joanna's question. Everybody's, like, nobody's gonna see exactly 40%. The 40%, and again, Eric or Christie, jump on in. That's just kind of how you have to capture overall, our revenue collection has to increase 40%. In the rate design, it'll be different for everybody based on the class you're in, residential, multifamily, public, industrial, commercial. And then the size of the service you have coming in, fire protection charges, those are the fixed charges, and then usage. So when you run different models of different things and different usage and different classes, you're gonna get all kinds of different percentage increases.
Okay.
Yep, jump on in.
I was just gonna add, and yeah, the different types of charges, the fixed charge per meter, the public fire protection, and the usage, those are all going to be increasing at different levels, and that's based on the cost structure of the utility, which has, which has changed since 2017 when these rates were last looked at. So the rates are increased based on the cost structure of the utility and its customers.
Okay. And then non-residential structures are going to remain the same, or are they not going to increase?
The structure
Meaning
will
commercial.
remain the same, but the rate will increase. The rates will increase.
So the commercial customer is going to pay 40% more, just like the rest of us, right?
Quite frankly, in the little models I've
Approximately.
seen, maybe even more, yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah, yep. They just won't have the conservation rate.
Okay.
That's a whole nother conversation, but and again, correct me if I'm wrong with the experts on the call here, the bang for the buck isn't there. You see the value. The conservation you're looking for, you're only gonna get from residents with the residential.
So,
single
but
family.
basically, this increase is going across the board to
Yep.
everybody.
And if they weren't developing it that way, when PSC starts crawling into these numbers, that's where they make sure that it is.
Okay. So, and then well two, if we put that off for a couple of years, is that going to affect the rate?
We did not, so this gets into a little bit of the weeds on how PSC sets rates, but basically they set their rates based on what you've invested in your utility assets through this year. So when they are looking at how much assets you have and what rate of return, like I mentioned before, that benchmark rate of return, they're just looking at what you have in place today. So that well number 2 isn't included in that rate of return right now. But looking at your cash needs, it's not really gonna, we wouldn't look at a smaller rate increase if you put that off a couple years, because you're still planning to do that project, and we still would like to see you have adequate cash flow to cover it.
Okay, I guess that's pretty much all I got.
I have a question. If someone can talk me through the customer notification process. I saw it in the simplified rate case, but I didn't see it later on in the conventional rate case where it's going to increase potentially a lot more.
Yep. I'll let Eric talk about that one. He usually works on that piece of it, but yes, there would be a customer notice involved with that one too. We just don't have the date on that one yet. It would be before the hearing.
Right, the Public Service Commission staff will do their thorough review after the application is filed, and that will take several months. And so the customer notice, right, it's not published until after the hearing date is set. And then generally it's about the customer notice will be out generally 2 weeks prior to that public hearing. But yeah, we won't know that until fairly late in the process. But throughout those several weeks prior to the public hearing, the Public Service Commission does take public comments on their website through the docket. So there's more opportunities for public comment even beyond the public hearing itself.
Oh, okay, is the process like a direct mailer, or how do the customers get notified?
It would be, generally it's published in the paper of record, so the State Journal. The
That's not a good
utility, the utility could, because they're on quarterly billing, it wouldn't be with the bill, because there's not enough, advanced notice to include with the customer bills.
All right, it's-
Maybe,
It's prob-
JJ.
probably more at the commission level or the village board level, but I don't know too many people that still get, newspapers, so I guess I would recommend like a direct mailer or something on the website or a combination of Facebook and things of that nature, and to include the talking points that, we haven't had any significant rate increases since 2017, substantial growth, things of that nature.
That's what I was gonna say. This commission and the village board can
Change.
tell us
Yep.
to go way above and beyond.
Yeah, JJ and I discussed it kind of
Thanks.
formally. We'd also let them know about the conservation rate that's going to be put in, and then the monthly billing, and then the fact that, and again, this is an item for later in the meeting, but I'm going to recommend that we get a rate study done more often.
Yep.
I've
Sounds
lived
good.
through this twice, and I just
Yeah,
don't know
and
what the cost is, but
this is, I'm gonna recommend that, we keep kind of Trilogy on as like we would like an engineer, and we go through the budget process every year. We pay a couple hours of their time to help us understand where our rates are compared to what they need to be, so it's a second set of eyes. So you don't have these 40% increases, or you have significantly less increases in the future.
because sewer, we can raise 3% automatically, but water, we always have to go through the rate, right? Okay, so again, I don't want to take everybody's time, but we'll talk about that one later, okay? If that's all right with everybody.
I just have one quick question. Is this increase just for the village?
Yeah, yep.
So the town has nothing to do with,
Most of them aren't hooked up to our water system.
Okay, okay.
6 of them, I believe, we
Right.
have.
I just have a couple things. When are we changing to the new payment system?
Fourth quarter, 2023. So there's a couple. That will be a little bit of a process. So the goal was to try to coincide these as much as possible. I know there's kind of some public like input or not public or a way to communicate to the public. There's a handful of items such as this rate case that we would like to get out on a public mailer to be able to provide that information to residents. And that way we can kind of combine things so it's not several individual mailers for specific topics.
Is there a list of capital improvements besides well 2 that we could look at?
Absolutely.
What does it be right now?
I can give you high level real quick. We've got, essentially, before well 2 can happen, we've got to upgrade the generator at well 3 so that we've got redundancy while we take well 2 offline for that project. The SCADA upgrades we've kind of talked about here over the last 6 months or so. These are the scale of, I believe, well 2, we've got it just under 2 million, or 2 million, I think, total with engineering and design. But then really there's not any super large one planned outside what we're calling the north side loop and tentatively placed in 2029. And that's another multi-million-dollar project, but really everything in this capital plan is well 3 improvements. It's essentially a divider wall and a floor coating at just under 60,000. So I mean, well 2 is really it in the near future.
And this might be a surprise to both JJ and Brian, but we'll be talking about the 2024 through 2034 capital projects for water and sewer at the next meeting. And we'll do kind of a formal presentation that will lead up to a recommended budget presented at the August meeting.
34?
2030, so we're going to look out 10 years and do our best to estimate what the needs are. And why that information is important for Trilogy is so they can kind of identify what our cash needs are for projects that will come up no matter what, to our best estimate.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to clarify the multifamily fixed rate thing. So month to month, a multifamily, say there's 8 units, that can still go up or down based on usage. But then once they get the amount for the month, then it's divided equally among.
If they only have 1 meter, like an 8 unit, if there's just 1 2-inch meter in there, that is up to the landlord, the owner, how they do it. Some of them, if they don't separate the meters, those accounts, I'm not sure how they recapture that, if they even do it or they just incorporate it into their their rent structure.
Okay. But
So,
when you say fixed rate, it's fixed rate based on usage, so it does fluctuate month to month.
That one doesn't. On multifamily, it doesn't. You don't see, like, you mean the conservation rate or the declining rate we have now?
Do they pay the same amount in water
Yep.
month to month?
Yep.
No matter what, no matter how much they use?
Yep.
Multifamily does?
Mm-hmm. Or not now. Right now, they're all on the exact same declining rate structure, everybody in all classes. The only class that we typically see the conservation rate is essentially your residential rates, which are single-family homes or duplexes
And that's
with separate
if they're not
meters.
separate metered.
If they're, if
So if
they
they're
have,
separate metered, they get billed by what they use, right?
yes. But actually, I can't think of a multifamily example where we know, maybe there's fourplexes.
Duplexes.
I was just gonna say, there are a number of fourplexes that
Yep.
have individual meters to each unit.
Yeah.
Those are residential.
Those will be residential, and duplexes are all just the residential as well. So yeah, multifamily basically applies to the big ones that don't separate it out, at least from a utilities perspective.
Okay, so if there was just trying to think of this in my head. If there was like a 4-unit that had 1 meter and a 5-unit that had 1 meter, they'd still be paying the same amount under the new?
Yes.
They'd be paying the same amount for their fixed charge, for the meter charge, basically, but then they'd also be paying the same rate for every gallon
Yep.
of water they used. Whereas now, like, if you had a 4-unit building that, isn't gonna use as much water as, say, a, 20-unit or 40-unit building or something like that, so that 4-unit building would pay more per gallon than the larger building. Because that larger building, they would cross over into that next rate block where they get a lower rate, right? So this is just gonna be like any multifamily building, regardless of size, pays that same rate per gallon as anybody else, as any other multifamily building.
Okay, so it's a rate per gallon, not rate per month.
Yeah,
There's-
it always is, yeah. It's always a rate per, and Christie captured what I was trying to spit out. Right now, everybody's on the declining rate, so really, yeah, a large multifamily like that one over there, we're just having more people in the building. They are essentially paying less than a fourplex because they're using more naturally there, and they're hitting those declining rate numbers like you have, whereas this removes that. So it's not necessarily a conservation rate on those, but they're also not getting a benefit of just
Right.
having more units. So it's kind of a backdoor into a conservation rate even on the multifamily, if that makes sense.
If they're gonna get an overall increase the same as anybody else, we're just flattening that rate structure so they all pay the same rate for their volume.
Okay, any more quiz questions? Okay, I would appreciate your time. We will certainly be talking to you, or Cameron will be, okay?
Okay?
Thank you.
So do we need a motion?
I believe so.
Okay, so we're down on B, discuss and consider application for a simplified rate case to the Public Service Commission. So we need a motion on that? Somebody make it?
I'll make a motion to apply for the simplified rate case to the Public Service Commission.
In a second?
And I can second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And no abstaining, so that passes. Thank you. And then the biggie. Discuss and consider application for a conventional rate case to the Public Service Commission. I'll make a motion to approve that. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
John seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And no one abstaining, so that passes also. And then let's go back up to A, if that's okay with everybody. And we'll let Brian have that one.
Everybody should have received the memo. Looking it over, I just didn't know if there were any questions, concerns. I can go into it in depth, I just didn't know if there's any questions.
Just basically having 1 hour of overtime for on-call shift.
Well, I guess I didn't want to look at it like that. So there are instances where, back when we had a bit of a drought. Well 2 had been running for 6 straight hours. One of the crew members noticed that he kicked in well 3 to assist 2 to fill that tower. In instances like that, I guess, when you don't have to come in to physically address anything, that would go to that 1 hour of compensation time to address that concern.
And are you guys compensated for being on call?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So they're compensated to be on call, but then anything, that they need to address is then compensated also. So there's an on-call, there's a cost to having somebody 24 hours
Sure.
managing that, but then if they have to come in and address it, that's a 2-hour
Right.
for overtime. But if they can address the situation from home and not have to spend the time, gas, money to come into work and address that, then it's, in my opinion, fair to go with the hour of compensation.
So it's a guaranteed hour, right?
Yes, yes,
Unless something happens that they gotta work longer.
correct,
Okay, yeah. And then the 2 hours if they actually come in physically?
exactly.
Okay, so that doesn't change much except for
There's,
by phone now is scale.
right, so that it doesn't change much, but, I've seen in other communities, this can get out of control and out of hand and sometimes looked at as abuse. If somebody's managing something and it takes them 2 minutes and they're getting 2 hours. Not that we've had that issue, I just wanted to address it before.
Well, it's good to have a
that
policy.
happens. Right.
Okay,
So are you saying that out of the 12 months, someone's on call for a week, and during that week, if they get no calls, they get paid 2.5 hours, or overtime for 2.5 hours for that week?
So the call-in pay is $200 a week.
Oh, 200 a week.
So that's if you do nothing.
Okay,
it's standby.
Correct.
okay, so they get 200 a week, and then if they get in a situation, they get time and a half?
So if you physically come into work, you're compensated a minimum of 2 hours of overtime.
Okay, 2 hours.
So if you can resolve the issue from home
Mhm.
and not have to come in, I'm just asking that be reduced to 1 hour.
Got it, okay.
And overtime is time and a half, I assume, or,
Yes.
okay.
If they get called in on a holiday, is it still time and a half?
Yes.
Or triple?
No,
Okay.
Yeah,
no,
Okay.
it's a.
Time and a half? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty standard through Public Works,
throughout.
correct,
Okay.
since Act 10 was passed.
Okay.
This might need village board approval because it's actually in the personnel policy.
Yep, I was just.
Okay, so, A, which is to consider the compensation, can we forward that to the village board? Is that the right way to do it? Recommendation that we approve it, and then the village board can take it up at their next meeting. Is that okay?
So, yeah, what the formal recommendation would be to amend personnel policy section D related to overtime to change the minimum of 2 hours of overtime for 1 hour if from home or whatever.
Can you make that motion?
Whatever he said.
Yeah.
He said so moved. Most likely, this won't happen immediately. If you're looking for a recommendation, yeah, but we're gonna be bringing on an HR manager here hopefully soon, which one of their first tasks is gonna be, well, everybody's got a list for this individual, but is updating the personnel manual. So it may be quite a while until this is actually formalized in that document. I don't know that the board would be interested in changing one thing when we shortly thereafter may bring a whole bunch of changes. So, but
So there's no effective date?
No, because it has to go to the village board.
yeah, anything from the personnel manual would have to. Yeah.
We have a few items we're hanging on to run through our human resource manager before.
Okay, but we don't have one yet.
Correct. We don't have an issue internally that this is addressing. It's just more being proactive. So,
Okay. So do we make a motion to forward it to the village board? Is that the correct procedure?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then whatever Cameron said is what we're gonna do, okay? So all those in favor of forwarding that to the village board, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And no one abstaining, so that passes. Okay?
Kristen, I'll message you the motion.
And then lastly, on new business, D, discuss and consider the 2021 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, which we got an A on again. Thank you,
Always good
JJ.
A's.
2.
Did it say 20? No, it's 2022, reporting on 2022. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully the last one I do, but yet again, we get all A's. And actually, the only thing, if there's any questions, most of you seen these, before. The only item of note is Cameron reported shortly after I finished this that we actually have a little more money in the replacement fund due to interest rates, and we've got a few thousand more in there, but they just asked for the balance at the end of the 2022 year. So, nothing much here. Brian and his team can handle this thing next year.
Hopefully as well as it has been handled in the past, JJ.
Well, unless JJ leaves, I'm sure he'll give you input.
True.
Okay, so thank you for that one. We'll move on to the engineer's report.
Actually, I do need, whatever we have, discuss and consider. Oh, it does say 2021 on the agenda.
Yes.
That's what you guys are talking about. Sorry.
Don't be putting that on me.
The report is accurate, it says 2022. We just have to get formal approval from the governing body before I submit it to the DNR tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight.
Do we need a motion? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, so, sorry for that one. Where am I? Back to the beginning here. Yeah. Discuss and consider the 2022 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report. I'll make a motion to approve that in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And then no abstaining, so that passes. Thank you, JJ. One more time. And now the engineer's report.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Not a whole lot in terms of village utility projects going on. One thing to note is we're still working through the authentic sags across the street, so hopefully we'll have a repair on that. For village public works projects, we have the flow meters on the sanitary sewer manholes. Those will be pulled here at the end of June, and so hopefully we'll have some preliminary data for the board here in the upcoming months. Luckily, we did have some rain the last few days, so hopefully we'll actually have some good data about I&I. We're still working through the preliminary engineering report for the ridge lift stations. When we have more of an update, we'll come back to the board on that. And then we're working with village staff on the proposal from LW Allen on all the SCADA upgrades for the various utility infrastructure that we have in the village. So hopefully we'll have an update moving forward on that here in the upcoming months as well.
So what's the story on the dip in the pipe?
There were 2 dips in the sanitary sewer. One of them, the contractor agreed on and has already repaired. The second one is 14 feet deep, and there's a lot of infrastructure that would have to be removed, and so they have been coming back to village staff on why they don't want to fix it, and why they don't believe it's a dip. So we are working with village staff and the contractor to make sure everyone is on the same page and agrees that the maintenance behind it is the issue. It's a low slope, minimum slope at 0.4, and so it's a continual maintenance issue for the village if they do accept it in the future.
So nothing's being done, they're just putting it off and putting it off?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, so is it time to get the attorney involved? Because this has
We
been,
have.
what, 7, 8 months now?
Yes, and we have had the attorney involved as well.
Okay. And then after it's fixed, are they gonna pay for retailing the whole system to make sure it's right finally?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll just put that on next month again.
Trust me, I hate it. I hate reporting on it every month as well, so.
No, it's not on you, but I'm just
Yep.
personally getting tired of guys saying that it's not my problem when it is your problem.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you again.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's the engineer's report. Number 7 is the director's report.
I'm currently working through our utility technician vacancy. That closes this Friday, so we should be setting up interviews hopefully late next week. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
No, just appreciate all your work. I know what's going on. So, anybody else for Brian?
I'm gonna butt into his report. One of the things to make an August budget realistic is, I know you guys typically meet the second Wednesday of the month. For the month of August, I would recommend the 23rd. And just wanted to get that date out in front of you guys to see if that would work for you guys as opposed to the regular date. But then again, we would propose, we at any time in July, we could bring the capital project listing to you guys for discussion.
Anybody for August, problem?
23rd works for me.
Actually, it works better for me.
9th to the 23rd.
Yeah. Because normally I'm gone the first 2 weeks of August for my vacation, so.
And again, just a reminder, that one helps us better establish, this year we are going through a full rate structure, but this gives us more time in the future to work with, Trilogy if we do need to implement any rates before the end of the year, as well as it lays really well into then the village overall budget, to make sure that the utility commission is approving things before the village board actually approves the overall projects, so.
Well, we are just advisory, so. Okay, thank you. Number 8, approve vouchers for payment. I'll make a motion to approve $87,623.16. Can I have a
And
second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one abstaining. Thank you. Number 9, approve the minutes of the May 10th, 2023 Utility Commission meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion with one correction. I think we have Heidi Murphy listed instead of Chris as the village representative. With that correction, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And no one abstaining. Okay, again, thank you, Kristen. Next meeting date would be July 12th at 5 p.m. If everybody want to check their phones? I love it. Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we will set the next meeting for July 12th at 5 p.m. Number 11, future agenda items. I would like to, and I know Cameron addressed this a little bit about Villagey, but I don't know what the rate case study costs, but I don't want to wait 5 years. I want a policy that we do it every 2 to 3 years. And again, if something changes, but I want a policy. Just like we don't have, when somebody calls up JJ about something, we have a policy for it. He just reads the policy and there's no further.
I would recommend approving the policy as part of the 2024 budget process. So when we bring you to the budget, that should give us time to work with Trilogy on wording for a rate policy, and then we'll bring that to the meeting for you guys to approve.
Okay, 2 years, 3 years?
I would probably defer to, it's hard to put a.
I think it'd probably end up being, I'm guessing, based on Trilogy's back and forth with me over the weekend after I talked to you, it's probably gonna be worded something like, based on the update annually, some kind of benchmark in our finances overall. Spell set, kind of like the reserve, reserves at the board level, things like, there'll be some kind of a policy like that versus a year, is my gut, after
Okay.
she responded to that question.
Can we just put that on discussion for next meeting? And try to get a little more clarity, definitive clarity?
Yeah, and overall, the overall rate process for actually contracting with a firm isn't what costs money. What we get billed, because we're gonna get billed from PSC for the time that they spend on it.
Sure.
That's where we can get killed, depending on how much they want to dive into things. And I think the better bang for our buck would be having some type of policy that says Trilogy will analyze the rate structure in conjunction with staff to ensure rates are appropriate, or they'll recommend a full rate study, which that gives us the flexibility to go back and forth. But I would want to do some type of policy that would avoid a big, like saying to ensure rates don't increase above X percentage.
Yeah, no, I know we can do sewer 3% all the time, and that's why it's in better standing than the water. But if water has to do a rate study every time we want to raise it without, inflation was what, 18% or something you said, right? So it's just not, it's not good management to say, oh, well, it's 40% this year. And then 5 years from now, it's 45%.
So you might see me come to you more often recommending that we automatically do the simplified, because we can do the simplified rate case study
For water.
without doing. And that is indexed for inflation. So this year, we're actually taking the full 8%. Next year, it could be 6% they recommend. So that's where we would ask Trilogy to, okay, if we're able to take advantage of the simplified, should we do this to prevent having to do a full rate case study? Because then we don't get billed for PSC time for reviewing the study by the consultant. So if we take advantage of the simplified, we're in better shape.
Let's put that on the agenda, and we'll make sure that it's a policy that if we can do inflation rate simplified something or other. Sorry, Kristen, I don't have the fancy words, so. Is that okay with everybody? Because this is just painful for me. I mean, I did, well, I'm sorry, I don't mean it like that, but I'm the chair, and I'm supposed to be driving here, and I don't feel like I'm driving, I feel like I'm lost, because I keep asking every time we do a big project, how's this gonna affect the ratepayers?
Yeah.
And now I'm going 40%. So, sorry, that was my little speech, so. Okay, any other things for new business for future agenda? Okay, so can we have a motion to adjourn, please? Second?
Second.
No more discussion? We are adjourned. Say aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And again, I appreciate everybody's time.
Recording stopped.